Okay, yeah, if y'all can project, that's great. We're just recording through the iPad camera, so all right. Unless one person has a good mic, it would take time. I think it's a lot. Yeah, there's a couple of them that are better. Really? And are you opening up at any point? For the recording of streaming, you know, have them come up and ask questions on the camera. I will never forget the great sight. All right, thanks everyone for we've got our eligible candidates for the Libertarian Party. But we're going to just set up a few ground rules. We'll start off with 2 minutes for each candidate to give a little statement for themselves, their big ideas. We plan to reserve a minute for each of them at the end of the 90 minutes for their closing statements. Our plan is to go through policy questions, 2 minutes response for each question, and if a candidate is called out by name, they will receive an opportunity for section to follow. So with that, we'll get started. We're gonna rotate in order. Mike, you're lucky you get to go first. Oh boy, introduce yourself and go down the table and we'll start with questions. Yeah, I get Josh's 2 minutes instead. Yeah, I get this 2 minutes. We'll add that on. That's real important. Does this thing work? Not that I really care. Are we going about it? Can you hear me in the back? Okay. Yeah, it's too bad. I'm probably gonna say a few things that piss you off, but we're gonna work through this together. My name is Mike Tremont. I'm here because I'm a professional economist. I ran for Congress a couple years ago. One of the things that I realized was the value of the Libertarian brand. When you're standing out in the Walmart parking lot, you're knocking on doors, you're passing out literature, you're talking to people where they live in their communities. The value of the Libertarian Party brand is approximately zero. There are places in this country, I tell this all the time, but I think it's just because you're trying to annoy me. There are places in this country where you can get more votes as an independent than as a libertarian. That's got to hurt. On some level, that has to hurt. In no small part, I laid this at the feet of some of our past campaigns. I believe that we need to do a couple of things very, very differently. Number one, we need to run on a very principled platform. I'm running on, as you probably know, I'm running on what we call a Gold New Deal. By the way, you can read about it at goldnewdeal.org. We're running on a platform of some of the most transformational ideas in libertarian thought. The idea is that this is the right way to brand our party. We believe it is also the right thing to do competitively to get the most attention, to cleave a hard edge against Republican politicians and against Democratic politicians, and leave no doubt that we are a completely different choice. If we're saying something that you might hear from a Republican or a Democrat, I have misspoken. If we leave the American political landscape looking pretty much the way it does today, when we're through with this, I'll owe you a huge apology, and I don't plan on failing. We're going to run to win. We're going to run competitively. We're going to run with a tremendous amount of credibility. We're running to disrupt the duopoly. That's what this is all about. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Minnesota Libertarians, for having me out at your convention. Thank you for the business party. My name is Chase Oliver. I want to be the Libertarian candidate for president in 2024. And it's because I do see a golden opportunity for our party to build a foundation that can last for generations. If we embrace a powerful and positive message that's energetic, getting out there and reaching voters where they are. Because that's how I became a libertarian. I was the anti-war voter, and the Democratic Party, who pretended to be the anti-war party, elected Barack Obama, who abandoned every anti-war promise he ever made. And that threw me right into the Libertarian Party, the real anti-war party in this country. because they welcome me into the tent. And that's exactly what I want to do for millions of voters. If you're concerned about tax money being taken out of your pocket to bomb babies overseas, welcome home to liberty. If you're tired of a mess at our border that prevents people from coming here and living their American dream of upgrading human rights abuses, border walls, and all the other terrible things that we see from our border patrol and ICE, welcome to liberty. If you're tired of eminent domain being used to put a pipeline in your backyard, if you're tired of your schools being terrible, if you're tired of the government making choices for you and your family instead of you, welcome to liberty. That's the kind of message that if we put out there to the American people, we will bring millions into the tent and grow ourselves up foundational. That's the kind of campaign I ran when I ran in 2022. And with $20,000, I forced a runoff the most expensive U.S. Senate race in history, brought millions of dollars worth of eyeballs and advertised the Libertarian Party. And that's what I did in one state with $20,000. Get me out there in all 50 states, putting a passionate message out there, and we will make sure that the two-party system knows the Libertarian Party is here to last. Go to votechaseoliver.com, join the hundreds of volunteers, and get involved. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chase.
This means 1 minute to go.
One
This
minute,
means
yeah.
you're making a really good point.
Yeah. No, you're all making a great point.
Well, okay, but sometimes large things, this means 10 minutes to go. So
We're moderated. So I'm not biased at all here, Mike. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna get a sandwich if he's gonna start talking.
Mike just took 1 minute of his
It's
next
gonna be a
time.
while.
Thank you, Minnesota, for having us today. I'm trying to do something different for the Libertarian Party. I'm sick and tired of going to the polls and coming on to the end of election night and getting 1 to 3%. And the media says the Libertarian Party got 1,200,000 votes, and then that's the end of it. They never hear from us again. I want to make real impact on election night. I want every American to Google what is a libertarian on election night, because we are absolutely going to spoil and break this rotten election. And how we're going to do that is we are going to cause a contingent election under the Constitution of the United States by denying both Trump and Biden the 270 electoral votes needed to win. The last time this happened was 200 years ago when John Adams was picked by the House of Representatives to be the President of the United States. This is a totally achievable goal. I've picked Maine and Nebraska because they split their electoral votes, and we only have to get 250,000 votes in either Maine or in Nebraska to win an electoral vote. This plan is working. Donald Trump called the governor of Nebraska and told him to get rid of the split electoral vote 10 days ago. They had after I was on Sparkanish talking about this plan. Fortunately, it failed. Donald Trump's campaign is watching my campaign. He put on Truth Social a poll that I was in. I've been in 12 national polls. I'm already causing media attention. They're already noticing what we're doing. They're already reacting to what we're doing. Aaron Burnett was on CNN talking about 269 to 269, that this could be the election that is contingent and causes both Trump and Biden to not be elected. There is nothing to get the Libertarian Party more publicity and more national press. And what this does is it gets the national press for all of our candidates that are running all across the country, because this is already happening now and not on election night. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is wake people up, completely screw the election, spoil the rotten election, give the middle finger to duopoly, so that we can finally start ending the damn state. Thank you.
Thank you, Minnesota, and my colleagues for attending today. It's been a great experience over the past few months, and so this means a lot to me. My name is Charlie Ballet. I'm a head, neck, surgeon, otolaryngologist. I live in New Orleans, Louisiana. I trained in Texas Med Center. I trained in California. I had a practice in Texas. Then I practiced moving back to New Orleans in 2014. So why did I get into this? Because I'm absolutely sick and tired of what I see in this country. Every day, day in and day out, I see patient after patient after patient. Whether you're rich or you're poor, you're getting the shit in your stick right. And it's not right. Yesterday, we just saw a bunch of persons in Congress waving a Ukrainian flag. Tell me there's not something vehemently wrong about that. It is absolutely something that we should not espouse to endorse in any way, shape, or form. So why am I running for office? Because I'm sick and tired. I think that we can make a change. I believe one person can make a change in this world. You're damn right, and that's why I'm doing this. I think we can fix immigration. I'm tired of these two parties telling us they can't fix this. This is bullshit. These people are on TV and they're trying to raise money in order to continue with this party message, right? It's never going to change. We need to fix taxation. We can do that. As a people, we can. Libertarians hold the keys to this election this year. There's no way that either one of those two major candidates are people. The American people do not want either one of these people into office. And we have the power to change that. Lars is entirely correct. We need to pick states. We need to go in there and say, you know what? We're going to shake up the vote. And if we can't win it, we're damn well going to make this country look at the libertarians and say, you helped us. So thank you.
I'm Martin Olivier. I was your candidate for vice president back in 2000. Harry Brown and I, we really dramatically grew the Libertarian Party back in 2000. We were over 33,000 members. I figured by the time I was ready to run for president, hey, we have 100,000 members in the Libertarian Party, and we would be a force to be reckoned. Well, something happened along the way, and unfortunately, that's not the case. About a third of the size we were. But what helped grow the Libertarian Party is that our campaign had somebody up on the stage who has done the things that the Libertarian Party says they're going to do. When I was the mayor of Bellflower, California, I cut taxes, I completely eliminated other taxes, privatized services, stopped every single proposal for eminent domain, and actually improved services at the same time. So what we can do is we can bring somebody on the national stage, show America what the Libertarian Party can do once we get into power. And and unfortunately, I think the Libertarian Party has lost its way. I'm going to talk about further because I'm sure we're going to be talking about the war issue. But the National Libertarian Party right now is diametrically opposed to my views on the war. I'm against every single war. I don't believe in the war propaganda that's being put out by the government and the media. So we'll talk about that later on. But if it comes out to the point where the Libertarian Party decides they want to have on the ballot somebody that can show America what we do in power.
I'm going to use the mic. Is it not working? It's not working.
You can turn it on.
I was just going to use the mic because I sang in band for a long time. Actually, I just want to say thank you to the wonderful beer caucus for coming out. You guys are doing great over there. What's up, Libertarians of Minnesota? Hello again. Thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate you so much. You know, I love Minnesota. I love coming out with you guys. Look, I know that it may have come to a shock, as a shock to some of you guys to see Joshua Smith running for president in the United States of America. It shocks me every day. It shocks my family. It shocks my friends. I get it. Look, I hate talking about myself in these debates, and I know Mike loves it. It's not my thing.
I love talking about you, but I love talking about you.
And the reason why is because this is not a campaign about me. It's a campaign about all of us. This is the mouthpiece for the pissed off section of America that has been oppressed by a terribly corrupt government for decades and decades and generations. Okay. I'm a blue-collar, working-class guy. You guys know me. I served 2 terms on the Libertarian National Committee as an at-large, like vice chair this last term. We won't talk about that. That was weird. I've been around the party since at least 2010. I worked on Ron Paul's campaign in 2008, and I had his endorsement for chair in 2020. I'm running on a radical platform to end the warfare state, to try and take a baseball bat, Ron Paul's baseball bat, to the Federal Reserve as much as we can as the president. I'm running a radical campaign on bringing the focus back to not separating families in the United States. I think that's something we should all be talking about up here. Since the 1970s, we've gone from 1 in 60 children living in a fatherless home to 1 in 4. This is absolutely due to the Title the Social Security Act, which has absolutely financed the states to separate families for profit. It's something that we don't talk about, but got to be brought to the forefront. Look, like I said in the beginning of this, I'm just a blue-collar, working-class guy. I get up every morning, I put on boots. I go to work like most of you in this room. I'm raising a family of 7 children, and I understand how these policies have affected my life. So I'm hoping to be the mouthpiece for you guys to go out and help the rest of this country. Thanks.
Thanks, Josh.
Here, I'll start.
I think some of those work.
I have these.
Yeah, we just want to use them.
All right. Y'all were very foreshadowing the questions we have for you, so excited to hear what you have to say. We'll start with Chase, and we'll go down the table, and Mike will close out this question.
The first one is immigration. Can you describe for us a just immigration system that reflects individual and property freedom of movement while conserving a collective national or state identity?
So I support an Ellis Island model of immigration, but it's a very simplified version of the immigration system. You want to come to this country, come through a port of entry, declare who you are, because we do have extradition treaties that have exercised with other nations. And if you're not wanted for a crime, you're not doing anything dangerous, come here and work. Let the free market determine how labor comes to this country. That doesn't give instant citizenship, but it gets us done with this human rights abuse that we see at our border. I've actually been to El Paso and to Dallas, Arizona. I've seen the border. I've seen the conditions that a lot of these folks live in while they wait for their asylum dates, and understand that this is not really conducive towards free movement or the respecting of individuals or their property or their capital. You have to remember that people, their labor itself is a form of capital, and that should be able to be freely moved across borders without the government determining winners and losers. Other than those who would be wanted for a crime that requires us to extradite our treaty. That's about it. And I believe that immigration makes our country stronger. We look at the number of Fortune 500 companies that are headed by immigrants or children of immigrants. We look at the number of businesses that get created. And we look at the economic output. It doesn't deplete the economic pie, it actually increases. And so we need to increase immigration in this country. It's a good thing. But what we don't need to be doing is letting government determine winners and losers in the marketplace. We don't need to have a complicated red tape system that allows for human rights abuses at our border. I believe that individuals can determine who should be able to come here and who doesn't, based on if there's jobs here or if there isn't. Agriculture is the largest industry in my state of Georgia. And trust me, we need immigrant labor. But what we would love to have is for seasonal immigrant labor. People to be able to freely come up here and work during planting and harvesting, and then take their money back to their families, their communities back home. Instead of sending the money back, staying here and being reliant on welfare programs. Let's allow for the free movement of people and let the market determine it, not the government.
Thank you so much. So we have chaos at our border. I'm tired of watching mothers with children have to crawl under barbed wire fences in order to get into the United States. I'm tired of seeing children separated from their families. We have human trafficking going on at the border, and it's caused by our own government, who created cartels with a 50-year failed war on drugs. They've handed a monopoly to sell drugs, and now they've handed a monopoly in order to traffic people across the border. And we've got to stop this. Our immigration policy is a complete and utter joke. The Democrats and the Republicans do not want to fix this because this is how they fundraise. They use fear against each other and how it might change if you get the other guys in, but the reality is they're never going to fix it. There's 21 visas currently which you can get in order to enter the United States with a whole myriad of laws and regulations, which is just completely and utterly ridiculous. We need to lower it down to 3 visas that you can get. One is for visitors, one is for workers, and one is for immigrants and asylum. And that's it. And what we need to do is get these people into the workforce as quickly as possible. We don't want to create a giant leech of a welfare state. That is the one thing that we definitely don't want to do. We can have corporations sponsoring people. There's jobs open all over the country that need workers. I was just in the restaurant upstairs today, and they said, we don't have enough staff to help you out, so we can't serve you. We need to get those workers who want to work there up to those jobs and be able to work right away, because right now, they're illegal, they can't work. And so that also causes pressure on our wages. And so my whole goal is just to end the chaos at the border, make it fair, keep people off welfare, get people into the workforce. Right now, we're at 40-year lows in labor force participation because the baby boomers are retiring faster than new citizens are coming on board. The only way that we're going to get new workers is through immigration. We need to do that, but we need to get them into the workforce and be productive members of society. Thank you.
I was going to use what Lars had to say. We went upstairs for lunch today. We couldn't be seated because there's not enough labor, right? So we need immigration. You're damn right we do. We have persons that want to come to this country to better themselves, to better their children. Who would want to take your child and give them a better life? But at the same time, right, why would we not be against someone coming across the border and receive the goods and services that we paid into? So yes, have the 2 big parties screwed this up? Royally. And we're going to continue to talk about it, right? So why is this the case? Why can we not fix taxation to make it fair so that persons who want to come across the border pay into these goods and services? So maybe persons who are closer to the border and pissed off that persons are taking or what they see is their rights Why do we not fix these things and say, listen, these persons contribute. There is a means to fix the situation. In the past 2 months, I've had a former senator in my office as a patient. I can't say who he is, but he said you will never fix this problem because it makes way too much money for the two major parties. And that tells me that the system is broken. You have two parties in Washington, D.C. that do not want to fix this. They want your dollar, or they want someone's dollar that you know, so they can stay in power and continue to run. We have a president who's been in office for 54 years. What is the problem? Now we're going to tax billionaires, right? Oh, wow, a bright idea. After 54 years, there is something that is wrong, and we pull the keys to this kingdom. Everybody needs to call everyone that they know, get them on board with this and say, libertarians know how to fix this problem. We need to go back to the Bill of Rights. We need to make this a fair country that we all live the way that we want to live and all have the American dream. Thank you.
Immigration was the biggest issue when I ran for governor back in 2006. Of California. So in Los Angeles County, we had 85 emergency hospitals that shut down right before this election. 85. Because we have millions of illegal immigrants in California. And they use the emergency rooms for their primary care. Instead of going out to the drugstore, buying cough medicine, they just go in the emergency room. Just jams them up, and I've had my son got injured really bad and really couldn't see anybody because the lines were so long, and you just don't get health care in California. We went to one emergency room, they were shut down. We went to another, and they were shut down. We went to another one, and there were just jam-packed, hundreds of people in there, and you couldn't see anybody. So it's a huge issue. And before I worked in construction. I could hire people from Mexico. They would work for me. They would go home on the weekends. They come back. They work for me, and it was easy. But since they've tightened everything up, it makes that almost impossible. The flow back and forth in the country. And if we were to end the welfare state, the free education, the free health care, free housing, all these things that we were enticing these people to come up here for, we would get the right kind of immigrants that we want. We would get the people that want to come here and work hard and create a better society for America, not the freeloaders that come in here and just want to get the goodies.
Oh, were you going to tell me it was my turn?
No.
Okay, sorry.
Let it rip, Tater.
My bad. Look, I'm glad that we're starting this debate with the most dynamic wedge issue in the Libertarian Party. Get it out of the way, rip off the Band-Aid, let's go. A lot of people ask me, what's your least libertarian position? And I always come back to this position because the truth of the matter is that the people of America deserve to have a sovereign nation with their own borders if they want to have it, okay? These same people up here that are advocating for letting 6 million people a year flood through the border are not advocating for Israel to have borders. They're not advocating for Japan to have borders. Why is it only the United States that has to advocate for open borders? Look, during World War II, 1.6 million Nazis invaded Poland. Okay? We had 6 million people come across the Texas border just last year. If that doesn't sound like an invasion to you, I don't know what will. If we have a labor shortage after 6 million people came across the border, do you think they're coming over here to work? Probably not. So the problem is that the people of America deserve to have a sovereign nation. They deserve to have some kind of cultural identity. Now, I'm not an anti-immigration person. I think that immigration is good. I believe that people who want to come over here and be productive members of society should have the right to come and do that. But we can't have people coming over here, living in hostels in New York, taking $10,000 credit cards from the government on taxpayer dimes and draining our economy. There's got to be a balance there, and it's not working right now. We're talking about this government having these terrible immigration controls, but 6 million people came across the Texas border last year. They don't have terrible immigration controls being done purposely, and it's draining on society. It's a drain on the economy. And at some point, libertarians, and I hate to be the guy that's like telling you how to act, but we need to understand that This is a wildly unpopular idea to have open borders. It's unconducive to us, and we're running to be the government, and we have to understand that people want to trust us to take care of their fears and mitigate their fears. So we have to let them have some kind of sovereign nation.
Yeah, that's some serious bullshit right there. Look, we as libertarians do not believe that this country needs a single cultural identity.
Says who?
Says libertarianism. Says me. Immigration is good for the United States. It is one of those things that defines America, that distinguishes us from other major democracies around the world. Let me explain American culture to those of you who may have gotten yourselves a little confused. America is a nation that believes on pluralistic tolerance. We are a nation that believes in the First Amendment, that believes in the entirety of the Bill of Rights. For whom? For
American citizens.
For everybody who's in the United States. And by the way, our founding fathers would have taken you to task for that, because it does not require you to be an American citizen for the Bill of Rights to apply to you. We do not abuse people who come into this country, whether they have established citizenship or not. Two things need to be said at the same time. Number one, legal immigration is good for us. Number two, illegal immigration is bad for America. We understand that. No one on this panel is advocating for open borders. Jacob's not here. I love me some Jacob, but we have a disagreement about open borders. Americans expect there to be some vetting at the border. So do I. But we need to get better at bringing people into this country faster. If you're not on the list, just like Chase said, if you're not on some weird list, we should get you in the United States and get you to work. The reason immigration undermines our wage structure is because we force people to work in the shadows for pennies on the dollar. Ironically, my Republican friends, ironically, it is that undermines the wage structure, not too many immigrants. Thanks a lot.
Mike, I want several here.
And actually, Chase was mentioned by name, so Chase, you have the opportunity for 30 seconds.
My 30 seconds is to say that immigrants are part of our country. They're a part of our cultural identity. We are a melting pot and quilt of all kinds of cultures. And that's actually what does make our country great. The fact that anyone can come here from anywhere and become an American. It is a strength. It is something that we are unique in the world for having, and it's something that I'll support.
Okay, gentlemen, you are in year 2. We've arrived. How is the monetary policy regime different with you as president? We're going to start with Clark. Year 2.
Right. Okay. So monetary policy, number one is that we have to stop the $34 trillion debt that we're in. And we have to stop the runaway inflation that's caused by endless printing of money. So first off, I want to abolish the IRS and end the Federal Reserve and get rid of payroll taxes, because you deserve to keep 100% of your paycheck. The government deserves none of your money, 100% none of your money. So what it looks like is I would be the president of no. If the Congress comes to me with a budget that has debts in it, I'm going to veto it. And if the Congress can't pass something with 2/3, then I believe it's probably not worth passing. I will force Congress to work together to override my veto and get things done, because the Congress is not doing their job. One of the main things that I'd like to do as president is reduce the power of president. There's a thing called the Plum Book, which has 7,000 positions that the president gets to enact. I am not going to fill any of those positions, and I'm not going to fill the 50,000 positions under those people. If Congress thinks those are good jobs and good positions that need to be filled, then Congress can create those positions, but they should not be under the President of the United States. And in addition, I would be looking at all the executive orders that have been passed before by other presidents, and I would probably be striking them all out, because I believe that Congress has given the President of the United States way too much power, because they don't want to do their damn job. They don't want to be held accountable, so they hide behind the president. I want to force them to do their job outlined under the Constitution of the United States. We need to return the power to the people's house there and let them do their work so that we can actually hold them accountable at the voting booth. And I'm also a big fan of term limits because I do not believe in career politicians. I believe that politicians is a service position to America, not a career. Thank you.
I would have a lot of people really pissed off. I'll tell you why. Those who like to work, I like. Those who want to sit on their ass, and they like to check, don't like. I don't think this country is going to people that don't want to do. That's why I'm running. So do I think I have a lot of people that would be mad at me? Absolutely, yes. And I would actually take pleasure in hearing this. We argue that that we want a lot of this done, but this is not going, however, to be a unilateral decision based on a president. We're going to have to reach across the aisle. But I think there's enough persons in Democratic and Republican circles that see how crazy this world has become. And look at the fact that you now have New Yorkers, immigrants coming across demanding that they need to stay in better housing or better places, that somehow this is a right. No, it's not. So, I mean, where do I stand on fiscal responsibility? We need to bring the debt to GDP ratio to some semblance of normalcy. Since Ronald Reagan took office, we have been climbing and climbing and climbing. I hate to say it, the only person who brought this in a downward direction was Bill Clinton. Well, I wasn't a big fan of it, right? But at the same time, we're we're $35 trillion in debt, and now the debt GDP ratio is like, 115%. There's something wrong with that. But when we change this, because it has to be changed, otherwise there's going to be a huge reckoning. You're going to have a lot of persons in this country they are going to be very, very, very angry because they're not going to be able to reap goods and services that they are expected to be receiving. So do I stand by that conviction? 100% yes. And this party has to be the one to do it because the two parties in power right now obviously cannot take the reins. Thank you.
Yeah, we need to end with that. You want to find out what the Federal Reserve is all about. Read the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. And that book is incredible. I read it. I met with G.F. Griffin at a big rally. It was back when the Tea Party was still for a small government before they were co-opted. I was the MC there, and we had about 1,000 people. He was the keynote speaker. But you read that book, and you would think that he wrote it right after the 2008 crash. He didn't wrote it before. And everything he said would happen happened. So the Federal Reserve is just simply private banks that control our money. That should not. That needs to end. And we could have an American currency that's controlled by the government, and it would be competing with cryptocurrency, competing with gold and silver and everything else. It should be actually tied to gold and silver. And that way it could retain its value. The only reason why the dollar, the Federal Reserve notes, has been considered the world's currency is because it's a petrodollar. And we force the countries that are exporting oil to trade their oil in Federal Reserve notes. Now, a lot of these countries are starting to get away from that. And when all of them do, when Saudi Arabia starts selling all their oil to China by using something other than the Federal Reserve notes, it's going to have a dramatic negative effect on the economy of the United States. So we need to end the Fed.
So this is the point of the big word, my colleagues, and every libertarian candidate is last time around these bumper stickers like the Fed and the IRS, destroy the Treasury, end all currency laws, and I love those things. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of taxation is that, absolutely 100%. The problem is that the president does not have the power to do any of those things at all. And so in year 2, in my presidency, there'll be blood, but it's gonna come from a different direction. Okay, we're gonna direct the Treasury. The president can't direct the Treasury. You have the opportunity to nominate the Federal Reserve Chair as the president. A lot of people don't know that. We're going to put somebody like Bob Murphy. I'm committed to Ron Paul being the Fed Chair. I don't know if he'll accept it at his age, but we're going to have something along those lines. Going to the baseball bat, start carrying balls. Okay. Look, we're going to go in and try to dismantle this huge fiat system. put together, and there's going to be a lot of blood. So year two, there's going to be a lot of blood. People are going to be upset, but there's a good thing right now going on in America, and you may not know about it. We're currently in a civil war right now, today. And I know people are like, what? That's somebody with an AK-47 fighter jets. No, the Civil War, the Libertarian Civil War today in America is growing your own food and opting out of corporate farms. Okay, the Civil War today is your own currency that circumvents the federal government. It's holistic healthcare, which we had this huge paradigm shift where the right is all of a sudden all about holistic healthcare in America. Good, that's a good thing. These are the things that are going to be required for there to not be one. Should I become president? Because we are going to try this current system that's harming everyone. But the Federal Reserve is a giant counterfeiting machine that steals your wealth through the taxable inflation. Okay, it's so boring to talk about to the American public. They don't care. They don't understand it. They're probably not going to read the book that this great gentleman over here just put out for everybody to read. But we can, run on other things like dismantling 75% of the federal workforce, making it hard for the IRS to go after middle class dads with a little bit of money. But that's my plan.
Yeah, I think that's the only mic that works on here.
Sorry. The reason Ron Paul spends so much time talking about the Federal Reserve System is not because it's easy to talk about. It's not because most Americans could find Washington, D.C. on that, like the last Federal Reserve System. The reason he spends so much time talking about it is because it's damn important. Yes, Americans are upset about the Fed. They don't know it's the Fed, but they're upset about inflation. Inflation is one of the very top subjects in this year's election because it's out of control. And because it's been out of control for a long ass time. Republicans have come and gone, Democrats have come and gone, and inflation stays the same, which is to say, always going up and down, but it never gets to zero. Why is that? Why is that? Is replacing a president make any difference at all? Not per se, no. Are there things that we can do about it? Yeah, there are. We better keep talking. This is not one of those topics that we can put in the back shelf because it's hard to discuss. As a professional economist for 25 years, I spent a lot of time talking about it. I condensed it down to a 2-minute video. If you're really bored, instead of reading a long book, you can go watch my 2-minute video on how to handle the reserve system. Or I can tell you right now, a libertarian-minded administration can change the Federal Reserve Board governors, place them with people that believe in a rules-based system. You know how interest rates are set in this country today? Every 6 weeks, we lock up 12 people in a room and we ask them what book they're reading. It's not a metaphor. That's literally how it's done. If I told you that was the way Ukrainians set the price of milk, you'd say that's what it's doing. It's the way the most important price in the world is set every 6 weeks. We need to replace that with the rules-based system that says, no, you don't have complete discretion anymore. You can only issue a certain amount of money. This will harden up our money, make it more competitive with the rest of the world. And we need the rest of the world to be able to compete with the dollar. So we can get rid of the anti-competitive rules that are in place. Thanks a lot.
Here's where I get to use one of Mike's lines. I agree with everything that Mike just said. Let's just say
You see a lot of stuff I.
but I do agree with a lot of what he says. We need sound money. We're walking into years to our president. So you have to imagine what that would look like. First off, we got a libertarian president. Now we're going to spend 2 years fighting the bully pulpit to talk about monetary policy, to talk about tamping down inflation, to talk about balancing budgets, to talk about getting money back to something that's valuable, whether it's gold, silver, what have you. That would be what I've spent the last 2 years doing. Is advocating for sound money, advocating for bring ourselves back to the base system, taking power out of the hands of rent. And we have to make that an important value. Why? Because, as everybody else has said, inflation is something we're all feeling. Every person feels like it is a hidden tax that hits you without any legislation. You're being taxed, whether that money is in your pocket, your business, or your bank. It's being robbed from you. And there's nothing we can do about it unless we change. And so I'm somebody who advocates for returning our money back to a sound money that's backed by something, but also supporting separating ourselves from currency and state, like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, I can tell you right now, if I'm in year 2 of my presidency, the second year in a row, that the President of the United States has paid his staff in Bitcoin today, so it's needs by example. That's the kind of presidency we have, one that leads by example, that fights this, and hopefully in year 2, we're about to be watching a bunch of libertarian legislators on sound like that's the kind of foundation. Radical policy, sound, and this is that's what it's about.
Oh, great.
Oh, shut up, Lars.
What a guy.
Yeah. Look, it is true that taxation is theft, but it is also true that all government spending is theft. Whether it's financed by taxes or inflation, or by debt that is left to your children and your grandchildren, it's all money that you can spend yourselves. So I move that we start calling it that. Government spending is theft. We need to change the tax code, inflation, and we need to stop leaving debt to our children. These are not things you would do if you were in charge. These people operate by a different set of values.
I did mention ours.
Sure, I'll take it.
30 seconds.
All right. So what I didn't get to tell you is that I have 37 pieces of policy on Lars24.com, which I encourage you to go to. And under the economic policy is a piece where we allow Bitcoin to be legal tender in the United States of America, so that you could transact $15 of Bitcoin without any taxes. The other thing that I want to say is that we are completely against central bank digital currency. This is the greatest authoritarian push our government can do on us. We do not need social credit scores to tell us how we can live. We do not need the government spying on every damn transaction of our life. I want to end CPC.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Work for 30 seconds. Appreciate your candor, gentlemen. The forum has been great. Really, your discipline, your discipline in not fixing other people's hasn't gone up. Well done. We're moving to something a little less controversial. We want to talk foreign policy. How do we move us away from the state of being the world's peace officer to a more armed-like society with foreign policy? Thinking specifically about alliances, freedom of navigation law, and the nuclear trial. We're going to get started with Charles.
So I am a person who has given his life to take care of life safety. Most people don't realize that it's less than 60-50 turns around. That's about it. So every day that I'm alive, I'm a kid. I thank God that I am. I get to see what I get to see in this world. Too often we, as people, as humanity, act inappropriately. I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that we should never. At the same time, it's not unilaterally one person that's going to be able to say we can close it. We can't, but at the same time, argue against scream from the top of the mountain because you don't believe in it. I don't believe in sending munitions off, kill other people in other lands. All you're doing is making. I always look at this and I always kind of laugh. It's like watching National Geographic Monkey Truck. I remember the show. Run across and throw a stone or a stick and hit each other, eat them up, and they run back. And that's a war. I mean, we don't have to. I believe that we should be expending our energy instead of using it for this to explore space, to use basic science research, better humanity, not to sit here and begin to fight other people. At the same time, they're bad actors in the world. I get it. So should we carry a large stick? Damn right. If they screwed this country, we should beat them back 100%. But we shouldn't go looking for fights because at some point in time, somebody's going to fall out of fight. We're going to have to send our kids overseas, get shot, maimed, hurt, etc. And I don't want to see that in my children. I sure as hell expect you to say the same thing.
Okay, so this is where I am opposed to the Libertarian Party's leadership positions on immigration. You can go to the Libertarian Party website. It was on the front page for 2 months. It's still on the website. It is called From Pearl Harbor to Present, the Perils of Aggression. This is a war propaganda article. It justifies World War II, it justifies Ukrainian war, it justifies slaughter in Gaza. You can read all of this stuff on here. And let me give you a quote here. I'm going to just read it exactly. It says that if you call for a ceasefire, you are guilty, just as guilty as the person that initiated the act. This is from the Libertarian Party. So if I was a libertarian-minded person and I wasn't a member of the Libertarian Party, I went to their website, I read that article, I thought, okay, these guys are just a bunch of neocons. Obviously, they don't do what I do. And, you know, I think for the majority of Americans, we don't want these endless wars going on. But the way they are sold to the people is through war propaganda, just like the article on LP.org. And I'm against every single war. I'm against every dime of foreign aid to any country.
Yeah, just to clarify, that's the only mic that works.
It just feels right. Oh, we're supposed to be passing this one. I'm dedicated to ending the forever wars that the U.S. Foreign policy has been across the world my entire adult life, longer than my entire adult life. Right? I'm putting out an anti-war video right now, as a lot of you see it. Look, I was 7 years old in 1990 for bombing Iraq. Okay? 13 years later, I was part of Operation Iraq. 3 weeks ago, we bombed Iraq. This is 40 years of making, bombing Iraq. And that's not it, okay? We're funding the IDF in Israel and dropping food stores to the Palestinians on the other side. You know, we're telling China that they can't have Taiwan and then funding Ukraine and they're fighting against Russia. It's the most hypocritical, long-standing, corrupt foreign policy in the history of the world. It's absolutely insane. It's asinine that anyone believes that we're the good guys anymore. Okay? We've propped up regimes all over the Middle East, just to fight them later. Look, we're talking Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Gaza, Somalia, Iran, Yemen, Syria, and Lebanon. Enough is enough. It's time to end this atrocious foreign policy around the world. It's got to end today. Last year, 6 years ago, 20 years ago. The loss of human lives on both sides are not worth it. Madeleine Albright is burning in hell. Woo! Yeah. 500,000 dead Iraqi children was worth it? Absolutely not. And those are the kind of people that are making our foreign policy decisions for us today. They have to be removed from power. We have to remove the foreign allegiance in our government today, and we have to get back to a society that has free trade for all and entangling alliances.
I'm very optimistic the American public is ready for a very, very strong anti-war message once and for all. I know we say this every 4 years, this time we need it. This is our big opportunity for a lot of bad reasons, let's be honest. Of all the weird things I'm going to say today, let this be the strangest one. Just for a moment, set aside your ethics. It's a weird thing to say, isn't it? Never mind how you personally feel as a matter of values about our crappy foreign policy representing you, representing the United States government. Never mind the principles behind it, the values and ethics. Just think of it as a practical matter. Because a lot of Americans are going to look at it that way too. As a practical matter, there really are no examples that Americans can point to and say, sure, that military intervention, cost us some billions of dollars and some thousands of lives, but it was worth it. That was a good idea. Or in the case of Afghanistan, I was really glad this came up. In the case of Afghanistan and Iraq, it wasn't billions of dollars, it was trillions. And by the way, it wasn't thousands of dollars, it was 12 billion. These people operate with a different set of values than you. This is why they operate in the shadows. This is the reason why so much is classified, because they don't want criticism. They don't want you to understand the facts. They lead their lives and control this government in a way that you wouldn't if you were in power. These are not decisions that you would. This is why America is ready for a big change. We need to change the stupid idea of strategic ambiguity for Taiwan and China. We need to stop foreign aid. Yes, Ukraine. Yes, Israel. And that hurts because a lot of us have emotional ties to Israel. I get that. As a matter of principle, we can send foreign aid across the board completely. Thanks a lot.
If there's one thing you can be certain about me, that I absolutely 100% oppose the United States formation. It's what got me into politics. Seeing that I went to school with go fight and be injured or possibly die in a war that was manipulated by our intelligence agencies. That's exactly what the Iraq war was. They cherry intelligence to form some sort of narrative. Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, and now millions of people all are affected by that. That's not the only one. Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, everywhere we're involved, everywhere that our dollars touch bombs around the world is us exporting death and violence around the world. How would our neighbors, how would your neighbors, your neighborhood like it if you walked up to them and you said, don't do what I say you're going to do, I'm going to punch you bloody. That's exactly what we do to nations all over the world. We hold them hostage for the military-industrial complex. We need a new relationship with foreign policy. Our neighbors should be people that we want to interact with market trade, diplomacy. That's the only real path toward peace, is if we maintain this military-industrial complex war machine. We continue to create the foment dissent against the United States, against our people. And it's not us that are causing the violence, it's our government doing it in our name. And this is what's happening in Israel too. There are a lot of good Israelis who don't like the war machine in Israel, but we don't hear from them because we only hear the government narratives on it. I'm somebody who's going to stand up for the peace movement here and abroad, wherever it exists, fighting back against the violence of the state and certainly the violence that we export around the world. I am sick and tired of seeing dead bodies that are funded and paid for by our tax dollars funneled through the military-industrial complex because some congressman needs to create some jobs in this district. It's bullshit. It needs to end. And the Libertarian Party is the anti-war party in this country. You need to be damn proud of it.
We're $34 trillion in debt. We can't afford to throw out any other country. I used to say I was sick and tired of them taking my tax dollars and using that to buy bombs to drop on kids in faraway lands. But it's actually not my tax dollars anymore. It's my kids' tax dollars and my great-grandchildren's tax dollars that are being used to drop bombs on kids in faraway lands. I want to fund peace, not war. Okay? We need to end our military-industrial complex. We need to end our military imperialism around the world. You asked about policing the world. We can't even police Chicago and Detroit. How the hell are we supposed to police the entire damn world? We're broke. Let's just end it. Look, what I want to do is I want to bring our troops home, and I want to cause an energy race, because one of the things that gets us in war over and over and over again is oil and precious metals and reserves around the world. We need to be energy independent in the United States. I'm going to abolish the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. I'm going to embrace energy. I'm going to drive down the cost of energy, which is going to increase our GDP. We're going to be energy independent, which is a national security issue, 100%. So what I want to talk about is that we have just been killing a lot of people over and over and over again, and your government lies to you. Your government lied to you about Iraq. Your government lies to you. So how can we believe what they're telling us in Ukraine, what they're telling us in Gaza? What can we actually believe in them? We have to end the military-industrial complex, bring our troops home, end the wars, fund peace home.
Support and defend the guard.
I'll do it. You guys are awesome. Really, compassion on this. My number one is, well, okay, so we're gonna start with, and this is as, you know, kind of touched on immigration. Localization first, describe a circumstance / policy area where national or higher organization can override a local or local passage of law or ordering or all of them. So where can the president come in and say your local government stop?
Well, I don't know. I don't think the local government, I mean, the federal government has the right to enforce those kinds of things. Chapter 8 says that stage itself. Now, in California, we're a total Democrat state. Legislature has 2/3 veto power, and they oversee the entire state government. But one of the positive things that they have done is to require cities to allow higher density residential developments. We have a really big housing shortage in California. Just your average house that would cost is $1 million in California. It's just not affordable for young people at all. And so what the state did was they said that every city has to come up with a general plan showing that they're going to have higher density residential in certain areas of the city. Some of the cities fought back against it. The state is suing those cities, but most cities have to comply. My hometown, Bellflower, California, we have some wonderful developments. The state company have been part of a lot of those developments. It's beautiful, higher density. These aren't low-income housing rights. There is, it just doesn't exist. But by increasing the number of units that we're building, it does overall lower the cost of housing. Hopefully, we'll have less homes. But that is one area where a higher entity can force local governments to increase freedom.
One question. I really hate that things hugely. Look, the fact of the matter is that should a federal government exist at all? Honestly, I'm proud anti-federalist. There's some really great anti-federalist arguments out there, but I understand also that we're federally. That's something that's what we're going to be trying to alleviate the fears of the public of the country and the truth of the matter is that should a federal government exist, way, shape, or form, it should only exist entirely to protect the inherent rights of the citizens, okay? And maybe to have some actions. That's probably something that's very important to some. Obviously, national security does not mean sending troops around the world all the time. But I think that the guard talk would have been really good here, because currently the federal government is called the National Guard from many states all over the country and make them go forward. Okay, we need to have governments in localities and states that are able to say no to that stuff. We also need a federal government that can tell the states, hey, you're not allowed to make gun laws. They have a Second Amendment right to own and carry firearms. Okay, and we need a federal government that actually protects them. That's a federal government administration. That's what I'm looking to make sure that these constitutional rights that the American public were protected by the federal government, as close to imposed on as most governments.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Creation of federal government is for only one legitimate purpose. That's to protect your civil liberties. And less important than mine. To protect all of our civil liberties. Remember, that's the only reason anyone sails across the North Atlantic. Not for any of this other silly stuff that we're talking about with regard to our federal government. there are a number of things that our federal government can do that it does not do now that it really ought to do. We are so used to recognizing that the federal government does so many things we wish it would stop doing that we don't even remember the reason it does exist, right? We don't even talk about it. The reason the federal government exists is to protect us from the other governments, not only around the world in terms of national governments, but yes, from our state government. I'll give you an example. I was in Florida for 20 years until a couple years ago, and we were watching, this big debate between Ron DeSantis and local school boards, right? And at the time, the Trump administration was trying to do some really great things. The convention administration was trying to do some really great things, right? Shutting down schools during COVID, dictating what can be in the school library, what cannot be in the school library. How we treat teachers, irrespective of their union contracts. You remember all these things. Ron DeSantis' message was boiled down, was basically, no, Mr. President, you don't have the right to violate the Constitution. That's my job. That's some weird stuff right there. We need the federal government to be interested in a very muscular way in protecting our rights. The federal government should be suing local school boards to break up the monopoly, not tolerating, not supporting it, not sending them money. They should be suing to break up. We have federal legislation. This is weird. We have federal legislation on the books against economic monopolies. But it's okay when it's the government doing it. That's some crap there that we shouldn't put up with. There are things that the government can do to help us out.
So why do we have a federal government? As it's been explained, it is to protect our civil uses of other things. That's why we have a Bill of Rights, to uphold those things. But we ought to have a Department of Justice that's actually a Department of Justice, not a Department of Justice. And so if I were President of the United States, I would advise my Department of Justice sue any state or locality that denies people their free speech rights, their rights to free expression or free assembly. When we had governments across the country that were shutting down houses of worship during COVID, it would have been nice to have a Justice Department that takes those local governments to court and stops it from happening. That's the kind of power that you have in federal governments, then the civil liberties as laid out in the Bill of Rights. And yes, the 10th Amendment does reserve things to states, localities, most importantly, most local government or self-government. I say skip the state altogether if you can. But there are things the federal government is empowered to protect our civil rights. Those are those amendments to the Bill of Rights. Your privacy. Wouldn't it be great if we had a government that sued localities that fighted for privacy instead of hating that paid for privacy? Wouldn't it be great if we had a government that sued people that tried to take away your gun rights instead of trying to find ways to help that? That's the kind of libertarian government we would have in the federal government. You would have somebody that really does care about inherent rights, that are born to you. They're not given to you by the Constitution. That's just merely laid out as to what the Constitution can and cannot involve. There are some pretty big absolutes. And if we're going to have a federal government that's responding and acting within the bounds of the Constitution, we have to have a federal government that stands up for those inherent rights that each and every one of us have. And if I were President of the United States, I guarantee you would. And as your nominee, I'm fighting for
I actually have two more pieces on the last question that I wanted to talk about. And that is that, have you ever noticed when a president gets in trouble, bombs start flying 2 days later? That's because we have the authorized use of military force. I would abolish the authorized use of military force. And as I said before, I will return that power to Congress. Congress should declare war if we're going to drop bombs on kids. That's my But as to this question, the federal government, we're all about reducing the federal government back to where it was back to fathers envisioned. And right now, the government is a bloated bureaucracy that's way beyond that and infringes on all kinds of rights, including a recent ruling or a recent law that they're going to be able to spy on us without a warrant. That is not what the federal government should be doing. What the federal government should be doing is protecting our natural rights, protecting our rights under the Constitution, and making sure states don't run ramshot over them. And one of those, to me, is the Second Amendment. To me, there should be no gun law other than the Second Amendment, no federal gun law other than the Second Amendment. And the federal government should be protecting our right to bear arms. Because without our ability to defend ourselves against the government should the need arise, we do not have liberty. And that has been a truth for me all of my life. And so to me, we got to vastly reduce the government, but where the federal government should take priority is in making sure that our natural rights are not trampled upon by a tyrannical and authoritarian government. Thank you.
My answer is pretty simple. First and foremost, national security. Secondly, person. That is not. It's not the federal government. It's right. Not think they all. Tell how much with other individuals. Well, I think guide rails.
We got 18 minutes till, who was it, Lars?
You got to run for a flight.
Yeah, so we did manage to make it on time for y'all to have 1 minute closing statements and then those breaks. Okay, and we'll start with John.
Well, once again, thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it. Thanks to my colleagues for showing up. Look, we got a great presidential candidacy. Look, this will be my 4th national convention in a row that I've been to. I've been watching the Libertarian Party since at least Harry Brown, Bernard. This is the first year, like 16 years. We have 5, 6, 7 radical candidates. There is not many moderate positions. We may disagree on different things, but at the end of the day, you're going to have a decision to make in DC. That decision is going to come down to how you want those principles and those messages sent out to the public. That's really what this is about. And for me, like I said at the beginning, I'm a blue-collar, working-class guy that understands how these policies have affected our life because it's affecting my life. I've been through the family losses. And I've felt the effects of inflation by going from $800 every 2 weeks to my 7 children to $1,200. I've seen it. I've been a part of it, just like you have. So I'm going to go out there and sell these principles to people in a way that's understandable and digestible because I'm living it. I'm living it right now. I'm living it, for the last 40 years of my life. Okay, blue collar, working class, middle class people. These are the people most affected by this corrupt government today. Absolutely, without question. They're also one of the largest swaths of people in the country. 12% of the population hardly put food on the table today, right now in America. It's just not okay. It's got to end. So I'm hoping that you guys will come to DC and get the vote so that I can go out there, smash the warfare state, and work to dismantle the Federal Reserve, work to put a focus back on keeping families together instead of separating them, and working on abolishing 75% of the administrative state. Thank you guys. Go to Joshua Smith 2020.
Oh, good. Yeah, thanks. This has been terrific. Look, Josh is right that we have a lot of very similar positions. If there's one thing that I would point out that distinguishes the campaign together from the others, it is that we are set up from the ground up, designed through and through for success. Success, we believe, will come from 2 different ways in which we're going to do things differently. Number one, we've already talked about it. Platform, very much principles first, right? Fundamental change, getting rid of the Federal Reserve System, getting rid of Social Security is evil. Social Security is evil. We need to be able to say that kind of thing. The other thing that our campaign does very good is we work very hard at protecting our own credibility. Detail, plans. This is important when you're running on the most transformational ideas. We lean very hard into my own personal background in public policy and public service. After working as an economist for more than 2 decades, I worked as a police officer for 11.5 years in Florida. That's why I talk about criminal justice reform so much. I look forward to talking about that in coming several minutes. Thanks a lot.
We're trying to do a minute. I failed to time Josh's.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
So
I
actually,
apologize.
he mentioned Josh. Give him that 30 seconds.
I was just simply pulling your mic from off.
Oh, no, let's not start. We're not gonna go past.
I want to say thank you, Minnesota Libertarians, for having me out here. We've spent a good time talking about policy. I want to allow a little bit of time to talk about days before my I have an awesome campaign. It's allowed me to now travel 49 by next week, all 50 states, something no libertarian president has ever done for your post-nomination. My campaign's allowed me to do some other things that no libertarians have been able to do before either. I got to speak on the Iowa soapbox stage, biggest political events of the year, right alongside the Republican and Democratic candidates, something no libertarians have ever been able to do. That's the drive, the energy, and the enthusiasm, and the hard work ethic that's out there. We're right at 500 volunteers and growing right now, all over the country. We have donors, all 50 states, plus DC and Puerto Rico. We are building the foundation network that we need to hit the ground running on day one for an energetic, enthusiastic campaign out there to fight against the two-party system. If you want to join this movement, I encourage you to go to votechaseoliver.com. Check out the website, check out all the hard work we're doing, and please join the team, and I welcome your vote. We see together, we're going to free up the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I grew up really poor. I grew up with an outhouse and no electricity. And I went on to enjoy Silicon Valley, and I built many startups over my life, including a company called Friendfinder Networks, which I built to 600 employees doing $350 million in sales. In 2007, I sold that company for $500 million. So far in my campaign, I've put $700,000 in my campaign and spent it, which is more than all the other candidates have put in the line. I'm going to commit another $1 million to my campaign after I get the nomination in order to win to stop 270 electoral votes, cause a contingent election, give a giant middle finger to the duopoly, and get the Libertarian Party the credibility and the news that they deserve so that we can finally be on the map on election night. I need you guys to show up in Washington, D.C. for me as delegates. Vote for me. Stop 270 is totally achievable. We only need 250,000 votes. I have the ability, I have the money, and I have the business acumen to make this happen. I need your vote and your support. Go to Lars24.com. Thank you very much.
Once again, thank you, Minnesota. I appreciate you letting us come up here for you. Thank my colleagues for the last debate or forum prior to Washington, D.C. I've learned a lot along my travels, talked a lot. I think it's helped me grow as a person. I got into this race because I want to make a difference. I determined that one person can make a difference. Do I think we need to be sympathetic? Of course, but I do believe that we uphold the Constitution. America should come first. Right now, we have a two-party system that's failing in this country. I'm afraid for my children. I'm afraid for my children's children. I don't think that this right now, the middle class, the lower class, is going to take care of it. That's why I got into this place. Please visit my website, www.ballet2024.com. I can use all the help that you'd be willing to provide. I do seek the nomination this coming May. Please vote for me. And I would love to actually try to win your vote, prove to you that I can work really damn hard to make this vote a better vote.
So after this forum, I'm driving home. My home is actually here. So although I do spend 80% of the time. I won't be your Libertarian candidate for president if the leadership of this party stays in place. This leadership has endorsed a different candidate, somebody from outside of the party. I have an email that they sent out. They talked about how great the 2000 campaign was, Gary Brown. How we needed to have long-time Libertarians run as our presidential candidate. How we need to build up the local parties, which I've done. And but anyway, I've enjoyed the time that I've spent here with guys. But in many of the states, I'm not allowed to speak because all those things that our leadership endorses, that's what I've done. So, but anyway, if you want to check out more, you can go to art2024.org.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Rebar?
Yes.
Just say goodbye to Lars and Charles.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Me and Arnold take it.
Wait, Josh, you mentioned Art by name. I think that means yes. And Charlie did a great job. I mentioned his name. Charlie, get 30 seconds. No, just kidding.
Go home. Miss Black, Dr. Black.
This question is for Art. There is a question in here. I'm Travis Foss. I'm a delegate from West Virginia. I am also a candidate for LNC at large. When I look at this party and the anti-war stance, I hear Josh, I hear Mike, I hear Chase, I hear Brett, I hear anti-war 100%. When you come to these, you talk about a single article on the website written by staff. I feel that you're more interested in attacking the party than running for our nomination. So why should we consider you for nomination when that seems to be your goal?
No, it's not. But the party needs to be fixed. And on my website, there's a link, and I wrote an entire article about the war of propaganda. And it's something that I've been involved with for decades. This is the worst thing that the federal government can do, is to continually fight these wars. And then now we're killing Russians. It's American tax dollars that are going over there, that are sent to Ukraine, that are killing Russians. Now, Russians have more nuclear bombs than any country in the world. And if we're going to do a regime change and try to destroy Russia, which is a goal, those weapons could be used against us. They actually have a new weapon. They say they have an underwater nuclear weapon that would create a tsunami 1,500 feet high that is radioactive. I mean, why would we be poking that bear with somebody that would wipe out the majority of people in this country? So I've always been anti-war. I campaigned it when I was vice president. I attended international peace conferences. Got me put on the terrorist watch list in the United States. But that needs to be fixed. It needs to be fixed. The pro-war propaganda that the Libertarian Party is putting out needs to be fixed. And nobody wants to.
What? Wait, pro-war?
Pro-war. Libertarian,
that is
libertarian.org. Libertarian.org, and go to search for Pearl Harbor, and you'll find the World War argument.
Oh, yes. They even called Pearl Harbor unprovoked or surprised or something like that. Is it that the article?
Yeah. That's one stat from our website. If you type war into lp.org, you're going to see dozens of anti-war ads,
True.
anti-war speakers, anti-war voices.
It is one column. It's like blame and reason for
just one column. It's lp.org. This is what people see. This was the front page of lp.org. 2 months. Still on the website. Next.
So before COVID, I was very but other people was a really strong this is a question kind of all of you, like frequent topic. How important was that topic to you? How important it is? Well, Josh,
Obviously, it's a cornerstone of my campaign. The regime absolutely overstepped every single possible right that we have, so many different ways. But look, 30% of the market that was shut down, shuttered, never returned to market. destroyed mom and pop spots while the government propped up Amazon and Best Buy and Walmart and all these, wonderful corporations treat everybody well, right? They use the force of your job to try and force vaccinate you. They tried to make you stay home. They tried to mask children. I mean, just every possible abuse you could think of, they pushed. And they knew that at some point people would start to fight back. Was familiar with the J6ers? A lot of those people were people mad about the COVID. They're sent to jail. Right? They wanted to find out how far they could push us, and I believe that the COVID regime belongs in jail. And I've said that very clearly 100 times. I have video out about it. This regime. All right. Oh well, they need to be in jail. And thank you for coming.
It's on a roll.
I was just getting warmed up. He's one of my favorites.
I think it's the most important issue in a lot of ways because it's such an important metaphor for everything else, right? It's such an important metaphor for things to come. I really believe that there are two different lessons learned at the same time by two different groups of people in the United States. And in some ways, it's the same lesson. Your government learned there's a lot of weird stuff they can make. And we learned there's a lot of weird stuff they can make us do. And what I fear is that next time, I don't know what next time is going to look like, right? It's a virus, maybe it's this environmental crap. You get the idea. It could be any big disaster, right? What I fear is that next time the government will be even worse because they will have learned, it's only a virus. Look at all the weird stuff we can make them do. Now, maybe they wouldn't think that explicitly, but they learned that lesson. They learned how. They learned how to force it. We need to learn the lesson too. We need to be ready for than we were last time.
Okay. So first, I want to say welcome home. Welcome home to Liberty, the party that actually fight. Glad you're here. Sorry that it took a horrible pandemic that ruined the lives of millions of people to get you here, but we're happy you're here. But that's what I want to say is there's actually a silver lining. As terrible as all of this was, and all the abuses were horrible, the business closed, the lives lost, all the peace of mind. But it was a wake-up call, a clarion call for millions of Americans to recognize the government doesn't have the best interest. No more did I see this in the realm of education, when millions of American parents got to see what the public education system looks like through a Zoom screen while they're remote working in the next room. And they realized the public school system in many places is absolutely pathetic and is not worth the value that we need to hold it for our students and our kids lifelong. And so I think absolutely situations where the government abuses us and can become wake-up calls for absolute solution to embrace upon, find those communities, help them come to liberty, welcome them home to where they are. Because as horrible as those things are, you can find nuggets, little things that can be good about it. And that involves waking people up, bringing them into the movement, and growing ourselves. So welcome home to liberty.
Yeah, I put out an article called the Coronavirus Transformation Ritual during this block. It was published in several sites. So I just saw some Trump supporters talking about if Trump gets back in, we'll make sure that this stuff will happen again. Well, it was Trump that enacted an emergency declaration that gave the governors the power to shut down their states. It was Trump that put together the Operation Warp Speed that got the vaccine out there so quick. But one of the bright sides of this whole pandemic is that the people that were told by the government that if you take the shot, you won't get sick. And almost every one of them found out they got sick after they got the shot.
Since the 1990s, LP parties have specific government policy favoring private sector. For example, federal and state charges, medical school, I know it's all. Do you believe that help to oppose such specific government policy?
What is
Yeah, well, yes, we should be opposed to very specific policies. The problem is, and look, I apologize, I was not serving the Libertarian Party's platform committee, so I can't speak for that. But the problem is, there's just too damn many. And so we find ourselves, how are you going to cherry pick, right? Because every time you cherry pick someone's list, you didn't include theirs. And then by default, by comparison, it looks like you support the rest. That's the fundamental problem. So it's really a matter of, communications policy, which ones you pick out. But the platform of the party today does call for the abolishment of the great majority of the federal government does. And I believe that that is where we should get close. That's right.
So I think our platform is quite broad, and the reason is because it encompasses a whole lot of things. I could say said one, and then we could say the other. Well, then we would have a platform that is miles long, which is exactly what the Democrats and Republicans have. It's full of contradictions and all sorts of things. And it's more complicated to make a document, the more easy it is to do that. So I like having a broad platform, but I do like having candidates talk about specifics. One of the ways I talk about separating ourselves from medical establishment, in fact, we don't need the FDA. The efficacy and safety of drug, have private organizations provide that service to pharmaceutical companies to show what drugs are safe to take and aren't. Decide which is the most transparent company, which has the best results. You decide for yourself the government do that. And so if you have a candidate who can put examples like that into the sphere, into the Overton window of ideas, perhaps we can start our shift towards those things. But I haven't have it written down like on a stone tablet on the platform. But our platform is broad. The government sucks. We need the government out of our lives as many ways as possible. It includes many of those things, just not specific.
Yeah, I think the states could include the list of departments that need to be eliminated from the state. Libertarian parties. Some, I mean, every state is different. We're all in California, they have a lot of regulars. And so we would have different departments. Even with your, so I believe that each state they should list the problems. It doesn't have to be a really long document. Just go through the regulated areas.
Is that right? A lot of you folks feel like you're not regulated enough. Need some more.
You're like,
that's weather like that. It's not Calisoda, it's Marxist soda.
I moved to Iowa to get away from California, and I was like, okay, well, I'll deal with the weather. But moving here and having the same policy. Look, I think that this is up to the candidates to put forth this policies and pick their own policies if they want to. That's really important. I think that the Libertarian Party should have a broad approach to the platform. I've said that for a long time. I'm a big proponent of removing, California, they had a 16-page platform, mostly written by Star Child, and on and on and on and on and on.
I love me some Star Child.
Yeah,
Don't pick on my Star
I think that it needs to be more broad and it needs to be for candidates. We're the best. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here to do. That's what Facebook needs going out and messaging to his community. He doesn't need to answer for the National Party's platform. He needs to make his own platform and run on the policies that are important. So I think that, putting all these policies in there, making it super long, and then telling the candidate, well, you got to go defend all our stuff. It's not good. I think
that is a really important point. Because when you run locally, you have to pick out very specific things. And if you've got a list of 15,000 items at the national level,
and you got to back them all up.
And you got to back them all up.
Go, TJ.
I will echo one more point. It is up to us as presidential candidates to run a campaign professional, and that doesn't embarrass those local candidates. They don't have to explain us away. And so part of the
we're here for you.
TJ, they can't vote for you.
As Mike said in the debate recently, this is your team. Whichever one of us gets the nomination in next month, this is the team for that person. We're all working together. We're all working together. We have to be cordial.
How do you hold drugs, rebel wars, national debt? How do you hold accountable about how we have Republicans, Democrats, firing so much? Probably deserve, but it's not. But
Yeah, well, where illegality happens, you hold people accountable using the court of law. And where those abuses happen and where you can identify those things, it's important for whoever's in charge of the executive branch to investigate those themselves, as well as the legislative branch for what they've been doing that's shady. But in terms of how do you change the tone of conversation without just going, oh, all of you suck? Well, you have to find those who are willing to work with you on those single issue coalitions. I'm sure there are some anti-war Democrats, maybe one or two. I'm sure there are some, maybe, I'm not sure. Maybe, I don't know. Right. But maybe there is a Republican who's worried about monetary policy, right? Maybe we would have to work with Rand Paul and understand that a lot of the stuff they do, I disagree with, but where I can find areas of freedom, I'm going to work. I do that in my home city of Atlanta, fighting Cop City. It's a giant training facility that they're going to use to militarize my city's police. And I join people all across the economic spectrum, including people who are definitely socialists. And while we don't talk economics, we do talk holding law enforcement accountable and join up when necessary. How do we work this?
Okay, yeah. We got it. If a libertarian became the president, obviously America would want libertarian policy. And Congress would realize that we wouldn't come up with all of these forever wars and else. But another thing that a libertarian president would do is refuse to spend the money that Congress enacted. Said, okay, we're going to give you, $95 billion to go blow up people around the world. And the president said, no, I'm not going to allow that to go through. And so they'll challenge it, laws, and Congress passed laws, and the president. But that's going to have to go up to the Supreme Court. I don't really believe that Congress can pass a law saying that the administration has to pay to do. They give us a budget, allows us to spend this amount of money. We don't spend it. Well, that just means that the debt's not raised. That will five down.
Well, first of all, we got to stop doing those things. That's the first key. And like Art said, we don't want any new spending bill that goes back. There's a lot of stuff that we can't stop that right away. Second of all, and I use the same thing for anybody who's not aware. I hate COVID. With all my heart. Anybody not pick up on that? But I use the same specific goal in mind for war crimes. Okay? Create an ad hoc committee of special investigators that have history of being constitutionally right. Have them investigate the COVID regime, everybody involved, Safer, Pfizer, the Fauci, anybody involved. Investigate for crimes against humanity. Same with people that could be investigated for war crimes. Be investigated. They need to go to trial. And if it comes out that they, crimes against humanity or war crimes or anything come out in the investigation, then they need to go to jail. They need to be held accountable. That's the truth. And maybe it is fire and brimstone. Maybe that's something that we need to use too. But for now, they need to go to jail. They need to be there for a long, long, long time.
Look, there's several baskets of different things here. Not to sound too, detailed and lost in the weeds. Some of them need to be treated differently. Josh is exactly right. We need a special counsel appointed to look into the COVID regime because there's any number of areas where we know that it's just absolutely right. That Fauci's getting kickbacks, and the fact that now we know they lied to us about what they knew about the research, how the research was conducted, where the money was sent in China for the laboratory. How, by the way, there hasn't been an investigation into how this thing leaked in the laboratory in the first place. God help us. Let's find out this was a mistake, right? Let's please find out this was a mistake. And we may never find out. So that's all, one big category. And then there's other categories where, as we were discussing before, you need the federal government to actually lean into what stupid local and state governments are doing. The vast majority of this, however, is political. and you need to use political forces to stop it. That means being vociferous, principled, and getting people out of office that don't believe in your values. So they're doing things that run against the principles. You can get them out of office.
For the time.
Awesome. And what did she say?
She asked, what's your
Okay. Yeah, I think we do have a big opportunity. We're not going to get as many votes as Johnson got. Governor Johnson. Yes, we are. Yeah. We won't, because we're not going to be the third party candidates. Third party candidate this year is going to RFP.
Holy shit, that's wrong.
Very wrong.
I don't mean ethically. I mean, that's just not a correct analysis of the situation.
Yeah, you look at the polling. We're at 0%.
We haven't even had a nominee yet. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, that doesn't define the success of the party. You know, when we ran in 2000, you weren't the third party candidate. Ralph was happy candidate. But you know, we grew the party, and with the people that are voting for RFP, which is going to be in the millions.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're going to be, he's going to get votes in the millions, but he doesn't have a political party. And a lot of the things that he says is going to resonate with people that voted. And we need to capture those people and bring them in.
I disagree that our third party. Here's why. He's learning very quickly that ballot access is not easy for him. I've worked in ballot access for many, many years. I've listened to Bill Redpath thrown on and 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 on. We spend millions of dollars every year fighting for ballot access for the Libertarian Party, and we already have like a history of getting ballot access. This man is going to have to spend $100 million. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. So I don't think he's a third party candidate. I think we have a very good opportunity for somebody to come out and be bold and proud of our messaging and get those people to come to our side. I really do believe that we have the best chance this year that we've had in many years. They're running back the same horrible candidates that they ran in the last two elections. Okay, we have a better opportunity and I intend to capitalize on that by bringing those people to the ideas of liberty. I mean, simply that's what we're going to do. Thank you.
Look, I'll just use 20 seconds real quick. RFK is not a success. But even if he were to, you cannot run as a campaign based on principle when your policies are not put together as a matter of principle. You know, I'm anti-war, well, except for this. Oh, well, I'm here to stand up for your rights. Well, not the Second Amendment. Let's not get carried away. Oh, and how anti-vaccine is this guy? I get the impression, let this sink in. He doesn't like the mandates because he doesn't like the vaccines. What do you think would happen if you liked the vaccines? For a libertarian, we say this all the time. There is no such thing as a vaccine good enough for the government to force you to take. The world's greatest vaccine, right? The government doesn't have the right to force you to take it. That is very different than what you get from RFK. You can't run on principle and have no principles. This campaign is eventually going to fall apart.
And spoke I'd just like to say that Robert F. Kennedy is also a fascist who wants businesses to don't comply with the climate change agenda for moving forward.
Yeah, okay, we all agree sucks.
Great. And don't anybody think that
Nobody said your name.
supporting
Oh, I know.
policy.
I know.
It's just, I think we need to go after their voters. That's a good way
But
to grow apart.
let me speak. You asked about what happens if we cause a spoiler, or we cause, whatever.
I did that in 2022. $20,000. I attended the most expensive U.S. Senate race in history. You know, not being a visible, very libertarian, bold message. And when I did that, it got millions of eyeballs upon the Libertarian Party. I directed people to the Libertarian Party in Georgia to check out our platform. I invited both of the candidates to participate for to earn Libertarian votes. Now, of course, they ignored me. That was probably to Herschel Walker's detriment. He probably should come there, listen to Rand Paul a little bit, brushed up, and maybe earn some votes. But he decided not to do it. But one of the things I did do was talk about how we could have saved my state millions of dollars by, instead of having a runoff, having ranked choice vote. And that cost our state $60 million to rerun the election. Well, it was at 5% support before I caused the runoff. After talking about how it would save the taxpayers time and money in the politicization of our Thanksgiving tables and really have the election decided already, shot to over 30% support. So it had made a difference. Putting a bold platform out there will get you a microphone and make a difference. And I did that through libertarian policies and ways to break down the duopoly via our voting systems. So if I have the chance to do that again, bet your ass I'm going to be on every news network letting you know that we can break down the duopoly and that there are better ways for us to go about authoritarian.
And that art is.
And that art taste sucks.
You can't make a point in 1 minute. It's worse.
Yes, ma'am. Who wants to go first? Yeah, so one of the things we need to do is get the heck out of healthcare and reduce competition in the marketplace. And that doesn't just involve the standard boilerplate of, oh, we'll let people buy health insurance across state lines. I support direct primary care as an alternative to health insurance marketplace, put no market incentive on insurance companies to lower their premiums. But DPC healthcare is a way for millions of Americans to have access to quality healthcare for most healthcare coverage at a much lower rate. And you can also do things by getting the marketplace out of the drug companies. Insulin. When I debated Warnock, he crowed, oh, I made insulin $25 for Medicaid patients. He didn't make it $25. He made it $25 for the user. The rest of that cost is spread to all of us taxpayers because the pharmaceutical companies still charge because they have patent evergreen that allows them to hold on to those patents for way longer than they need to for generics. Let me just tell you right now, if you allowed generic insulin, we can market the website right now, cost of production plus 15%. So when we remove these barriers to allow drugs to cost lower, we remove barriers that allow us to access healthcare at a much lower rate than we do today. We can use market forces to lower the cost of healthcare. Oh, and by the way, get rid of the social programs that are Medicare and Medicaid, and you do that in a responsible way by helping by those those who are least affected are the first to be removed over time. Done, we're good. So it's gone forever because that is what is increasing the cost. Sorry.
Yeah, we have to have a lot less education in the federal government. That's what costs so much money in the healthcare system. And we need to end all of the subsidies that are going into hospitals, like during the COVID regime. You got $13,000 if you declared that a patient had COVID. You got $39,000 if you put them on a ventilator. You got even more money to kill. So the incentives that the federal government is giving to the hospitals, to the states, it's not for healthcare by any stretch of the imagination. It goes against everything that free market would provide. And another thing is the National Institute of Health should be eliminated, along with all of the CDC and everything else. All federal funding should be eliminated from those organizations because they're actually private organizations. But in a sense, they can get money from the royalties. So, yeah, get the federal government out of.
Look, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a candidate who's running the Libertarian Foundation that doesn't want to get the federal government. I think we all understand pretty clearly. You know, this is all just the culmination of compromise. They call it compromise. What it really is bipartisan support of the absolute worst shit that the federal government put out. That's where we're at today. Copyright laws, the federal government involving itself in healthcare. Well, we're just going to regulate a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then finally, we're going to bring out the death panel, make sure that you're allowed to lose. Okay? I mean, that's really where we're headed, and it's time to get the government out of it. They're the reason the markups are so high on everything. I wish Jacob was here, because he's the guy that's like, back in my day, healthcare was very cheap. Jacob got it correctly. Yeah, Jacob was mentioned by name. He's great on this issue. I think that we're all good on this issue. I think that letting the federal government regulate healthcare in any way is why we're here to begin with. Removing those subsidies, removing regulation, removing that absolute ridiculous patent law on the drugs in America has to go.
Yeah. The reason healthcare costs so much in the United States is because so much is controlled by insurance companies. By that I include the federal government, Medicare, and as insurance companies, which in some sense they are. Remember how we started out with this? We started out by inviting insurance companies in when corporate tax code was used to advantage insurance companies, right? That's when we took the first step off of the curve. And so now we find ourselves in this great situation where continuously the federal government thinks it's doing you a favor by giving you more insurance, or in the case of Obamacare, forcing you into more insurance, which is diametrically opposed to the rights of what we have to do is get insurance out. The way to do that, of course, is number one, you got to get Medicare completely out. We need to get back to a system in which it's one price for everybody, not one price if you have insurance, price if you don't. And that means competitive markets. So, for example, we also have to get local governments and state governments out of the business of saying you can only have a certain number of hospitals. Because that limits the number of clinics, limits the amount of
You mentioned Obama.
To what extent functionalities, and if not, what anti-war rallies or
I've been to the anti-war rallies. We did a march and I participated in them. And like I said, I international conferences. And I can see that the Mises Caucus is upset because, I'm criticizing their leadership for putting out this pro-war, pro-war Mises. But anybody can read those articles. Anybody can read them. And I talked to Angela, I talked to Adrian. They said, okay, yeah, you're right. Why don't you write up a rebuttal to it, which I did. I said, well, we don't get that. How about you write a new article, which I did. See on my website, and they don't publish that, but they need a more article on.
Yeah, I did not participate. Some people may know why, some people may not know. The truth of the matter is that I was not consulted about it at all. It's probably the biggest anti-war activist guys, no one time. So I didn't take part in it, but I've been, I was an anti-war activist after I left Iraq in 2004. Okay? So I've been to hundreds of anti-war protests. Of course, I was working on the anti-war stuff and the 2012 that occupied something called California. So I've been doing this for a long time, the anti-war stuff. I would have liked to have been more a part of planning for rally, sure, but I wasn't consulted. Yeah.
Thanks. My attitude toward a lot of elements inside of our party from some other folks from each of you. I participate in and support all of them. And sometimes it's a little bit crazy. But I'm actually, this is going to sound, I'm actually a big believer in the caucus concept. And I know that sometimes we get a little carried away and say things that we don't, right? But I've been a big supporter of the Mises Caucus for a long time in terms of a lot of money. And in fact, they've supported me, money, my professional campaign, and all of that. But I've also supported the Radical Caucus, supported the Classical Liberal Caucus. I supported with money and my time, the Rage Against the War Machine. I participated in the next rally with money, and I was there and chance to speak to the crowd at the Humanity for Peace rally in New York. And I know that people feel differently about this. But I do believe, keep slugging, we will find channels that help. Not every channel is perfect, you get that. But every channel is an opportunity. So I push on all. Thanks a lot.
So, first off, mentioned multiple rallies. I was not present there. I was and was asked to be a speaker. But I long been an anti-war activist. First time I've gotten pepper sprayed by my government protesting the Iraq War when I was a teenager. Yeah, and last time I got pepper sprayed by my government, I was in my 30s during the criminal justice in 2020. So I can tell you right now, it's way more fun to pepper spray than tear gas when you're young. When you're young, you just throw the milk on your face, like, whatever, that's the machine. When you're in your 30s, you go, can I make it? Do I need to Uber home? What am I doing? And so one of the reasons why I'm so specific to anti-war and wanting to gain the anti-war movement is because we need to have younger activist blood in our system. We need to have more people willing to get out in the streets and get pepper sprayed and tear gas by our government as we fight the war machine. And I'm willing to lead that cause while I still have knees and a back that will allow me to do it. But I will always be somebody who fights the war machine 100% vociferously. If I can hold up the LP banner doing that, that's the lightest banner I've ever had to hold. It's a banner we maintain.
On record, Casey wants smoke.
On record, I'm not going to yuck your yum, whatever gets you off. No, I am pro activism, but it should be pepper spray. It's a lot.
He said pepper spray.
Pepper spray.
Yes.
Charlie Ballet and I were in Utah a couple days ago participating with Jacob in a talk just like this. And we asked, which is the best state? Everyone in Utah said Minnesota.
My question is, who president? In Minnesota, and you know this, the next presidential election, they can't really get that far. So my question is that and as a state vital spot, you have to have that either statewide race election or
You made 1% last time. Yeah.
1.08.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a yes. That's a yes.
But anyway, so question is that whoever gets the nomination for how much time and what are you going to do with your platform?
Haha, I live 1 hour and 45 minutes away. I win. I'm not here. You spend 80% of your time in California. We heard you.
I've had family in Minnesota.
Go ahead, it's my turn. No, look, I'm dedicated to helping any state that needs development. I am close. I know that the Midwest is going to be close. We're talking Minnesota, Iowa, of course, very clearly, Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas. These are the states that are going to be my bread and butter. This is really, we can have a good effect on the Midwest. I've been telling people, Midwest is right for the whole Midwest. Absolutely.
That's true.
Absolutely, 100%. We have it better than the people who moved to the state of New Hampshire to make this the thing that they want it to be. So I'm dedicated to visiting and helping all the Midwest states as much as possible, including Minnesota. No doubt, I'll be here probably 20 times over the next 6 months. Thank
You know, when I look at my campaign and what we're going to be stressing for we campaign, ballot access is one of the major ones. It's one of the absolute things to look at. The ballot, what states require us to ballot access question? And I say that I've already done that in my home state of Georgia, 1.5%. I had 2% that sentence. So I know it's doable there. But states like Minnesota are states that require us to invest in the time. And ballot access is top of that. Because if we're not running candidates, we're not really a party. So any state that requires us to have a presidential candidate be there to secure ballot access is top of my list. And so if Minnesota, being one of those states, is now going to be shooting right at the top of that list, we spend a lot of time here. Me and whoever my running mate is. And whoever that is, they better get their running shoes on. So rest assured, Minnesota will be hearing. Rest assured, yes.
Thanks very much. With your permission, I'd like to speak to everyone as friends and libertarians and as adults. I love Lars to death, but I do not like this idea of focusing on a couple of different places. The idea of disrupting only on election governmental. I believe it is absolutely fair to do so credibly. If the media picks up a whiff of you're focused on this one, you're focused on Lincoln, Nebraska, you're hoping you get a grand vote with one vote, with one electoral vote, you're dead. We have to be in this to actually participate as a whole nation. That does mean that when we see places where it's close, are we going to make ballot access on? Yes, we need to bias in those places. But I got to be honest with you, Minnesota is not going to be one of them. Because 1%, we're going for 3, 4, 5, 6%. If Minnesota gets in trouble, and we think that we're cutting it close in the 1%, absolutely, we're all here like white on rice. 8%. Exactly. So to my point, I don't really expect, right? We'll keep an eye on everything, but I don't expect it's going to be cutting it close on the 1%.
All right, so when I ran for vice president, a lot of the state parties would call up my schedule, say, hey, we'd like Art to come out. He would tell them, he says, okay, you get him 3 to 5 days of solid heat, and then he'll come out to the state. So 6 days out of the week, I was at some other state campaign. I think in this election that we need to decide what is the optimum time to be in certain states. Minnesota can do that. Of course, 5 days of solid heat coverage. Of course, and that would be on. You need to figure out when is the optimum time for Minnesota. You got to know when the summer. Yeah, well,
yeah, don't come in the winter.
Yeah, summer. Be out there. So it depends on when the ballots are mailed and all those things. So it has to be strategy involved. Because Iowa's going to have 2 weeks. To maintain ballot access. Yeah, maintain ballot access.
Yeah. Well, Rick Stewart got us. Got us. Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining the live stream of the Libertarian Party of Minnesota's presidential forum. We understand that the sound quality was a little bad, so we're going to upload a video with hopefully better quality very, very soon. Thanks again.